Hello, 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 and welcome back to Adults After Dark. I am Mimi, your host for the evening, as usual. And of course, I would like to thank everyone who has been tuning in to each and every episode. And for those of you who have subscribed to the channel, I've noticed that we have quite a few people that actually listen to the episodes each week but are not subscribed. So you are returning to listen in on Adults After Dark and you are not subscribed. So go ahead and hit that subscribe button and the notification bell so you know that every time we do upload. Now, so tonight is episode number 10 of Adults After Dark, and tonight is a special kind of episode. This episode actually was not planned, but I was having a conversation with someone about this topic, and I mentioned it. I believe I mentioned it in the last episode or the last couple of episodes. I'm not sure which one it actually is, and I also have a video on it that I did probably about 3 years ago. But before we get into that, let us recap on last week's episode, which is, can you be in a relationship and still be lonely? So as you know, I have mentioned that yes, I have a husband. We have been together for 18 years. We've been married 10. And yes, I am lonely. And there are several reasons why I say that I'm lonely. But I'm not going to get back into that. So if you have not listened to last week's episode, go ahead and do so. And then be sure to comment down below. So we haven't really had any comments on these episodes. I really would like to hear some of you all's feedback and some of the comments that you have. Yeah, so go ahead and put a comment down below. Even if it's an old episode, go ahead and comment. If you have not tuned in to episodes 1 through 9, go ahead and check those out as well. And if you comment on those, of course, we will still, I will still return a comment. And if we get enough of those comments, we will kind of go back and recap on those. So, like I said, tonight's episode is a episode that is pretty near and dear to my heart. It is very personal, and like I said, I've mentioned it in a few episodes back, and I do have a video on it that was done a couple of years ago. You can check that out on my YouTube channel. It's Lindsay's Lounge, which is LINZ' Lounge, LOUNGE. Okay, so another thing that I want to mention is, again, this is episode number 10. So after tonight's episode, we will be taking a small break. I'm not sure how long the break would be. It may be a couple of weeks. It's going to either be 2 to 4 weeks. It may be a little longer. I'm not sure, because Guys, the holidays are coming up. And you know, everybody is busy doing their shopping and getting ready for, you know, the holiday, people coming into town and things of that nature. So we're gonna take a short break after tonight's episode, which was episode 10. Next episode after this will probably be around January 6th. Yeah, it will probably be January 6th. Like I said, I know everybody is busy. You know, it's the holiday season. Everybody is doing, you know, holiday things, getting ready for family and things of that nature. So yeah, it will probably be, most likely it will be January 6th after tonight's episode. But yeah, you can still go back and recap on the other episodes with no problem. Those audio conversations will stay up, and you can always go back. Be sure to comment. I would love for you guys to comment. Share the audio conversation, because you never know who you're helping. Okay. It's a lot of things that people go through that, you know, a lot of people don't really talk about, because people don't really have nobody to talk about it to, because, you know, people are being judged and they don't have anyone to talk to. So yeah, if you can share the episode, and like I say, it may just help somebody else. Okay. Be sure to subscribe and hit the notification bell. Okay, so let's get into it. I think that's all of the announcements that I have. Excuse me. So, like I said, tonight's episode is really personal to me, and we're going to get into that in just a moment. So tonight's episode is being a caregiver for your loved one. Okay, being a caregiver for your loved one. And I say for your loved one because being a caregiver for a stranger is totally different. Okay. Now, me personally, I have been both. Okay. I've been in the medical field for 24 years, almost 25 years. And how I got into the medical field is I was looking for a job. This was in 1998. So guys, I'm about to tell my age right now. So back in the 90s, when you look for a job, you would look in the newspaper. It's not like now where everything is on the internet and you put in applications and do Zoom interviews and things like that. Everything you did it either going into the facility or in the newspaper. So I was a stay-at-home mom. I got tired of staying at home. I was on public assistance. I got tired of getting a check once a month, and I wanted to work. So I would look in the newspaper and, you know, see what jobs there was, you know, was available. And the jobs that I kept seeing with very, very little schooling, because I really didn't want to go back to school, but very little schooling, and I wanted something like right then was for CNA. And for those of you who don't know, CNA is a certified nursing assistant, which means that a CNA works under a nurse, LPN or RN, and you basically doing patient care. Now, you may have patients that are totally dependent on you to do patient care, which means getting them out of bed, feeding them, bathing them, clothing them, and everything just like you would do for a newborn baby. Okay. And then you had some that were partial patient care that were able to walk around and bathe themselves, but you still had to do little things for them. Okay, you might need to wash their clothes or get their food. I mean, it was a number of things. It all kind of depends on how sick the patient was. Now, I worked in a nursing facility for 2 years, and I think I've mentioned this in a few episodes back. I worked in a nursing facility for 2 years, which I worked as a CNA. So let me go back. When I was looking for a job, like I said, I kept seeing everything for CNA. So I applied for the CNA program. You had to have a certification. So I kept seeing CNA. Everything I looked at, CNA just kept popping out. So I looked to see what the requirements were, and I looked up the schooling, how much the schooling was, how much school I had to do. It was only 3 months, and then you would take your competency exam. So I ended up finding a community college in my city, and did the CNA class. And in those 3 months, we did a bunch of hands-on training. Learn how to change beds and how to bathe a patient a certain way, how to shave them, and all this other kind of stuff. And then after the classroom, we had to actually do our what they call clinicals in a facility, whether it be a hospital or a nursing facility or assisted living. So my particular class, we did our clinicals in a hospital. Now, we had to have our nails a certain way. We couldn't wear like a bunch of makeup, a bunch of jewelry and things like that. Now, this was back in 1998. Now, I don't know how it is now, but this is how it was back then. And we had to wear certain uniforms because we came from the school. We had to wear certain kind of scrubs, and we had to also have our stethoscope. We had to have a watch with a second hand on because we had to do pulse and things like that. Now, in the nursing field, you still have to have those things because there are certain vitals that you had to take, and you had to count a certain amount of things. So this was like in 1998, like I said. So till this day, I am able to take blood pressures. I am able to, any vital signs that we learned back in 1998 are still valid now. I think they just added a couple of more vital signs, but I'm able to take pulse, respiration, blood pressure, weight. I can weigh a patient in a wheelchair. I know how to deal with a bedridden patient and all of that. Okay. Now, worked in the nursing facility for 2 years, and I didn't like it. It's not the fact that I didn't like the residents. I didn't like how the residents were being treated. I actually called OIG, which is Office of the Inspector General, on one of the CNAs there because they were abusing the resident. Now, in these facilities, you have residents that are bed bound. You have them that have dementia. You may just have someone that's addicted to drugs or may have been in the hospital and needs some kind of rehabilitation. And this one elderly lady that was there, she pretty much lived there because she was elderly. She didn't have any family. She had dementia. And now, don't get me wrong, this lady was really feisty. She would curse you out. She would spit on you. She would punch you. She was very combative, right? But in the midst of all of that, it's basically that if that resident do something to you, you just pretty much got to take it. Because they're senile, they have dementia, they don't know what it is that they're doing. So the person that I was working with now, she was an older lady. She was a CNA. She was probably in her late 50s. Well, you know what? I'm not gonna say that. I don't know, but she looked older. She looked older, and so I was helping her bathe the resident, right? Took her in the bathroom, was bathing her. So the resident was calling her all kind of profile names. Right now, this is what she does, and then like 5 minutes later, she don't know that she did it. She didn't remember that she did it. So the lady that I was working with, I was helping her bathe this resident. And so the resident, like I said, was calling her all kind of profound names, and then she hit the girl. And the CNA had slapped her, and I mean slapped her hard, like this was her child. She slapped the shit out of her. And she looked at me, and I didn't say anything. I just went and told the nurse. And I had to do an incident report, and I went and told the administrator, and then we called Officer of Inspector General on her. Now, I don't know what happened to the lady. You know, once I did my thing, it was out of my hand. I gave my statement, told them what happened and everything like that. And after that, I was like, I can't do this because I didn't like how they were treated. Now, working in the medical field, you have to have some kind of compassion. Now, I have seen people, and till this day, I actually work with people that is just in it for the money. Me personally, working in the medical field, you have to have some kind of compassion. And I look at it like this. Suppose it was me, my child, my sibling, my parent that was, that needed to be taken care of. You treat people how you want to be treated. Okay? You don't treat people bad because you never know what's going to happen to you. I told my daughter one time, let me tell you, we was at a store. My daughter was real young. She probably was about 6 or 7 years old. And we were walking to the store. And there was an older gentleman that was always at the store. I think he did like deliveries or something. And he had a backwards foot. One of his feet literally was backwards, like the heel of his, like say his left foot. His right foot was fine. And then like his left foot was literally backwards, like the heel of his left foot was at the top of his, like where the top of your toe was supposed to be. His foot was literally backwards. And my daughter had started laughing at him. And before I knew it, I just hauled off and I just slapped her. And I told her why I did. I said, don't you ever talk about somebody that is disabled like that. We don't know what happened to this person. So I said all that to say this. Things happen. You can be normal 1 minute, and then you may cut your foot, okay, and get an infection, and then your whole foot got to come off, so now you don't have a foot. Anything can happen to you at any given moment. You can walk across the street and get hit by a car and get thrown up in the air from this car hitting you, hit your head on the concrete, and now you have TBI, you have a traumatic brain injury, and now you a vegetable, or you just a whole bunch of things wrong. So no, you don't ever talk about nobody that's disabled. So yeah, but anyway, like I said, I had called the OIG on the people, and then I looked for another job. I couldn't be there anymore because I didn't like how those residents were being treated. So I ended up getting a job in community health setting, which is where I am now, and I've been there for almost 23 years. June will be 23 years. And I still feel the same way. You treat people how you want to be treated, right? Now, along the years, my mother, she lived down the street from where I was working at. And so she would come up to the job, and she would want to hang out. First few times was okay, but then she started doing it every day. And then I started seeing these different signs in her, right? Like, what is wrong? And so she told me that, now it's really weird because I think that when people have an illness, they really don't know. Now, my mother told me, because I told her, I say, Mom, you can't come up here every day because I'm at work. When I get off work, I'll come back there and see you. Like I say, she stayed down the street. And so this one particular time, she came up to my job, and I looked at her. She just looked different. Now, the first few times she came up, I noticed stuff, but I kind of just brushed it off. And she had on this yellow sweatshirt. And now my mother, she was one of the ones that was always doing laundry, would always keep her, fold her clothes up and hang them up and things like that. And so she had on this yellow sweatshirt, and the cuff of the sweatshirt around the sleeve, like where the wrist part is, it was so dirty. And I was like, Mom, why are you outside like that, right? And I was like, Mom, you need to wash your clothes. What's going on? And she said, oh, I didn't wash my clothes and blah, 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 right? So anyway, she hung around the job for a minute. And when I got off work, her and I walked back to her house. And I looked through her closet, and her building had the laundry in the building, and they had to use tokens. I noticed she didn't have any tokens, so I went and asked the manager where they get the tokens from. Have she been buying tokens for the laundry? They said, no, she haven't been buying tokens in a few months, right? And so I goes upstairs, and I'm looking through her drawers in her closet, and I see all of these dirty clothes in there. And she folded them up like she actually washed them. And so went got the tokens and I washed like literally all her clothes. And I just started seeing a lot of different things. And she told me, she said, I don't remember like I used to. And I said, what do you mean? She said, I just can't remember like I used to. She told me, she said when she go to the store, she would have to literally write down everything for the store. Now, it's not just a grocery list that she's writing down. She's writing things down like, tomorrow, go to the grocery store, but before you leave, grab your wallet, grab your keys, get the shopping cart, get your ID, get your money. We're gonna pick up this from the store. She would have the grocery list. So literally everything I just told you is what she would write down on this paper. She would say, she would do her grocery list. She would put, after you leave the grocery store, go to the bank and do this, and then go to this store and do that, and go to here and do this, and go here and do that, right? So that there was a red flag to me. So I took her to the doctor, and the doctor told me, oh, she's just going through menopause. That's just one of the signs of menopause. It's just the the forgetfulness and stuff like that. I said, no, her stuff is more than forgetting to, do some little stuff. If you're literally writing down everything that you need to do, that's a problem. So I end up taking her to another doctor, and the doctor gave me like a list of questions to ask her. And this list of questions, I can't really remember what the questions were, but that kind of determined what other kind of doctor she needed to see. So as I gave her this list of questions, she answered those questions. When we went back to the doctor, I gave that list to the doctor, and then that doctor said, okay, well, we need her to see a neuropsychiatrist. So psychologist and psychiatrist, two different things. It was a neuropsychiatrist. And the neuropsychiatrist dealt with memory. Neuro is the nerves and brain and stuff like that. They did all these CTs and MRIs and all these other kind of tests and everything like that. And come to find out that she was diagnosed with early onset Alzheimer's. So everything that I was describing to the doctor, this list, like literally everything that she was doing. So I didn't tell you everything, but it was like a number of signs that led me to believe this is what was going on. Now I kind of had a hunch that that's what the issue was, but I'm not a doctor, which is why I kept taking her, back and forth to the doctor. Now I had a hunch because I have worked with those people, and as I was doing my CNA classes, those are the things that we talked about. And so she was diagnosed with early onset Alzheimer's and dementia and depression. She was, I want to say she was between 50 and 55. Now, most people that gets diagnosed with Alzheimer's, they're in their 70s and 80s. She was, like I said, between 50 and 55. I can't remember the exact age, but excuse me, it was around that time. And so when she got diagnosed, I packed her up and I moved her in with me. Now, let me go back. I told you that she was living down the street from me, right? And she was living with her boyfriend. Her boyfriend ended up having stomach cancer. Okay. And he had passed away. He passed away on the bedroom floor. Now, what she told me, it was that he sent her to the store. He was laying on the floor. He sent her to the store for whatever it was, and they didn't have whatever he sent her for. So she went back home. He was still laying on the floor, and he sent her back to say get something else. So I'm thinking that he knew that he was fin to pass away. He knew he was getting ready to pass away, and he didn't want her in the house. That's what I got out of it. So anyway, when she came back home, he was already gone. He had passed. He was laying on the floor on his way to the bathroom, and he had passed. Now, my mother called me. It had to been like 2 days later, and we just talking, and she said, "Oh, by the way, so-and-so passed." Just like nonchalant. I'm like, huh? I was like, well, when did this happen? She was like, oh, about 2-3 days ago. Like it was nothing. Now mind you, she had been with this guy since I was probably 12 or 13 years old. Okay, and then I was in my 30s then. So yeah, so anyway, I took her to the doctor, and I told the doctor all the symptoms and what was going on. I mean, like everything that I can remember what was going on. And like I said, they diagnosed her with early onset Alzheimer's, and like I said, she was between 50 and 55. And yeah, so once she got diagnosed, I packed her up and I moved her in with me. I called my landlord and I told him, what was going on, and I refused to put her in anybody's nursing facility. That was not going to happen, because I've worked in a nursing home and I saw how they treated those people there, and I wasn't feeling that at all. That wasn't going to flap at me. So I moved her in with me. Now, if you don't know, there are, I believe it is, I want to say it's 12 stages of Alzheimer's. Okay, so I'll take that back. It is, I thought it was more than that. I just looked it up. It's 7 stages of Alzheimer's. I swear I could have read that it was more than 7 stages, but okay, we're gonna say the 7 stages. And what I can tell you is that my mother went through every stage of Alzheimer's there is. Every stage. Now, her Alzheimer's progressed over, I know where I got 12 from. She lived with it for 12 years. But she literally went through every stage of Alzheimer's. And she had it for probably, about 12 years. So she was, let me see. So she had to been about 52 or 53 when she was diagnosed, because she passed away at 66. And I took care of her for 12 years. So it was around, 52 or 53. And when I tell you that she went through every stage of Alzheimer's, so the first stage is when you really just start noticing little things, but you don't really have a definitive diagnosis. Okay. Then you go to the stage of forgetfulness. Her forgetfulness is when she started writing down everything that she needed to do. Like literally everything that she needed to do. Then she went through, like I said, she actually told me, that she didn't remember like she used to, but I just, took it as everybody forgets stuff every once in a while, but no, hers was more progressive. So then she went into, she had more cognitive, like a more mild form of the disease, right? Which means she couldn't remember her name. She didn't remember my name. She knew who I was, but she couldn't call my name, right? She started where she couldn't find stuff. If she set something down. So when I moved her out the house, she had this back then, like the fanny packs. They were called fanny packs back then, just like they are now, but they're more updated now. And she used to use that as like her purse. And she used to keep her cigarettes and her keys and stuff like that in there, right? And she put the keys in a fanny pack, but she didn't remember that she put the keys in a fanny pack. Now, these were some old keys. She didn't live in their apartment anymore, but she had some old keys that she thought was the keys to her house. So she would lose the keys. Her, and my husband, before it was my husband, we went to the park. My husband's family was having a big old barbecue. I think it was one of the holidays or something. And my husband set the car keys on I think it set them on a table or something. My mother had sticky fingers, honey, let me tell you. So he set the keys down, and when it was time to go, I don't know why he set those keys down. I couldn't even remember why he set the keys down. But anyway, it got dark in the park. Everybody packing up, getting ready to go. Now, we looking for the car keys. We done covered the whole vicinity of the park. We could not find these car keys for nothing in the world. My husband said something told him to look in my mother's fanny pack. My mother had the keys in her fanny pack and didn't act like she didn't know what they were. She didn't know how they got in there or none of that. So that's another stage. She had like short-term memory loss. So she would remember stuff that happened 20 years ago, but couldn't remember what happened 5 minutes ago. Okay. She remembered my auntie. She used to always call my auntie name. So it had got so when I wanted her to do something like come down the stairs to eat or stuff like that, I had to say, Mama, auntie, so-and-so want you to come on downstairs, and she would come on down. But if I said, Mama, come on downstairs and eat, she wouldn't come. So I had to kind of use my auntie in there, right? Then it got so where she just didn't remember anything. Okay? She didn't remember anything. She would stay up all night. So her bedroom was like literally next to my bedroom, and I purposely did it that way so I can keep an eye on her. And there was a cabinet right at my bedroom door, and it had a mirror on it, and the way it was facing, I can see in my mother's room, so I can see everything she was doing. So she would be up all night, and she would try to walk out the door, so we had to put an additional lock way on top of the door where she couldn't open it. We had to take the knobs to the stove off of there so she wouldn't turn the stove on. And she would go outside. She would open the front door, go sit on the front porch, go back in the house, but she'd leave the door open. So this particular day I came home, I thought somebody broke in the house because my door was wide open, right? And she just sitting there like, like, she ain't did nothing. My husband came home, and she had the water running in my upstairs bathroom, and something was in the sink, and it overran, and it went all the way down to the basement. So it was things like that, that she didn't know she had the water on. She didn't know that she left the door open. We had a barbecue in our backyard one day. It was what is that holiday in September? Was it September? I think it was in September. And everybody outside, I'm upstairs, getting myself together, told my husband, keep an eye on mama, blah blah blah. Backyard full of people, right? So I get outside and I didn't see mama. I didn't see her. So we sit down playing cards, and I ask my husband, I'm like, where's mama at? Well, he wasn't my husband then, but I'm like, where's mama at? He said, oh, she said she'd be right back. She went in the house. I said, oh, okay. So I didn't pay no attention. And I'm like, it's taking her too long to come back out. So I get up and I go upstairs and I go look in her room. I didn't see her. I said, okay, well, maybe she went to the bathroom. I didn't see her in the bathroom. So I literally looked through the whole house. I looked in closets and everything. My husband, like I said, everybody was in the backyard. And I told him, I say, mama is not in the house. He like, what do you mean? Just that she's not in the house. So he got on the microphone because he had his music outside. He got on the microphone and told everybody to stop what they doing. Mama wasn't in the house. Did anybody see her get away or whatever, right? So what ended up happening, we think she had walked through the gangway and opened the gate and probably just stood there and didn't realize that just turn around and go back into the yard. And she just started walking and got totally turned off. So I called the police. My daughter was at work. I called my daughter. My brother lived in another state. I called him. Before I could get off the phone, my daughter was here. So like I said, we ended up calling the police. I told the police what happened, and she was gone for, I want to say, about 5 hours. Police was looking for about 5 hours. Everybody was looking for her. When I say everybody, I mean everybody. And just so happened that day, my husband's friend had got a new camera, and he took a picture of her. That's how we ended up getting a picture of her. And so, not too far. It's far enough, but it wasn't too far. But if you're walking and you don't really know where you are, it's pretty far. So a lady called the police and said there was a lady on her porch that looked like she's lost. So the police asked the lady that lived at the house to describe her. And so she described her, and the police told her, we're looking for her. This lady left out the yard. She has Alzheimer's and dementia. Please keep her there. And so the lady that owned the house went outside and talked to mama, to keep her there. My mother was very friendly. She didn't know, that's another thing that I was worried about was, because the world is so crazy now. It's like she would talk to any and everybody. So the lady did keep her there. The police did bring her back home. And like I said, it had been about 4 or 5 hours that she was gone. So yeah, so that next day I ended up getting her a medical alert bracelet. So, but anyway, so her next day she went through, she got to where she didn't talk. She started falling a lot. So she would fight with the caregiver. My caregiver had threatened to leave so many times because this was her first Alzheimer's patient. She didn't know how to handle it. And she had threatened to quit. But she ended up staying with us for about 10, 11 years, the caregiver. And I've never had another caregiver. It was always her. But anyway, so my mother, she started getting real combative. She had became incontinent of bowel and bladder. If you don't know what incontinent means, it means that she used the bathroom on herself. It got so where she stopped talking. She stopped walking. She ended up becoming bedridden. She didn't eat anymore. She had been in and out the hospital because every time she eat, we found out that she would develop aspiration pneumonia, which is when you eat or drink, instead of the food going down your throat to your stomach and to your intestines and you digest it, it will go into her lungs. The food and drink will go into her lungs and then set up infection. So at that time she wasn't able to swallow correctly. So she ended up being on tube feeding. Before she became bedridden, she was still actually walking around, but she was still on the tube feeding. As she was walking around, we would just feed her, clean the tube, and she walked around like she normally do. But then, like I said, she started falling a lot. So she's in her room, we just hear a big boom and she started falling. So she ended up getting we had a reclining chair. We put her in a reclining chair and reclined it back so she couldn't really get out of it. Then she started having seizures. She started having grand mal seizures. And then she started, let's say she became bedridden. So as she was bedridden, she was not talking. She was on the tube and she was still having grand mal seizures. So at that time, it's basically like the stages of Alzheimer's. You pretty much know when you're in that last stage because the person will be constantly in and out the hospital for something. It was always something. It's not like you go to the hospital every once in a blue moon. She was there like twice a month, almost. Okay, so therefore she was bedridden. She was incontinent. She was on a tube feeding. She didn't talk. She didn't walk. She didn't sleep. It was a lot. Yeah, it was a lot. She so by her being bedridden, we learned in school, if you're going to school for medical assistant or CNA or nurse, if a person becomes bedridden, you're supposed to turn them every couple of hours so they don't get bed sores, right? She ended up getting they call it a pressure sore. So she ended up getting one on the heel of her foot and her thigh. And so I came home from work one day, and like I said, she was already bedridden at the time. And as I coming up the stairs, I'm like, what is that smell? She had a small hole in her thigh. I'm like, what is that smell? What was that smell? And I ended up calling her doctor. She had a doctor, well, she wasn't a doctor, she was a nurse practitioner that came out to the house. And so, I had called her and said, I think my mother's thigh is infected because you can smell it, right? And so she came out and looked at it. She said, yeah, it's infected. So she took all the information back to my mother's actual PCP that she worked under, and they told me to do a direct admit to the hospital. So called the ambulance, got her to the hospital, and they had to debride it. So the little hole that she had in her leg became a huge hole, okay, because they had to get all the infection out, and kind of found out she had what they call osteomyelitis, which is an infection in the bone. So once she got that pressure sore, the pressure sore became infected, and the infection went all the way down to the bone. So she was in the hospital, and they wanted to amputate her leg. I'm like, you're not going to take her leg off. You can clean that infection out, and we'll get a nurse out to keep it clean, and medicine and all other kind of stuff. Now I was able to do it because I'm a CNA, or was a CNA, and I was able to do all of those things. But her insurance paid for a nurse to come out, so we had a nurse to come out. And let me tell you, I took advantage of the insurance, honey. I got her feedings, which her milk for her feeding tubes. She had to wear adult diapers, her chucks, her medicine, her G-tube supplies, which was the syringes, the gauze, the everything. When the nurse came out, they ordered her to have the 4x4s and the 2x2s and all the perineal stuff and all the antibiotics. I mean, everything. I took advantage of everything. And so yeah, they want to cut a leg off. I'm like, no, y'all not gonna cut a leg off. You gonna cut that infection out, and we're gonna let that heal. So they want to put her in a nursing home. I said, you're not putting my mother in a nursing home. That's not gonna happen. But the hole in her leg was so big, they was like, you can't take care of it at home, which is understandable because I couldn't, because it was a big hole. So they said, well, we can take her to a long-term care hospital. I said, well, we can do that, but she's not going to nobody's nursing home. So she was in the hospital for 2 months. She had went the day before Thanksgiving, and she stayed until January. I think she got out like January 7th or 12th or something like that. Yeah, something like that. So like the second week in January. So she was in there for 2 months. And when she came home, we went back to, the regular scheduled program. The bedridden and feeding tube and all other kind of stuff. Like I said, she was just, how you have a newborn baby and they don't know anything, they don't see nothing, they don't know, they just there. That's how she was. She was just there. She was still alive, but she didn't know nothing. She couldn't talk, she couldn't walk, she couldn't eat, she literally couldn't do anything. She was just there. And so she was in the hospital for 2 months. I went out to the hospital every day to see her. I would go like on my lunch break. I would drive. Now my job was on the south side of the city and the hospital was on the north side of the city. So I would drive on my lunch break because I was close to the expressway to go see her. make sure she doing good and everything. I was out there every day. And when she came home, like I said, it was back to a regular scheduled program, and she passed away like a week and a half later. And I knew that she was in her final stages of life. Like I said, because I'm in the medical field, and I can, the things I know, these things, I went to school for these things. And so the day before, the caregiver, now she was on nebulizer treatments. Now, she didn't have asthma, but sometimes because she had the aspiration pneumonia, sometimes she couldn't breathe, so she would do a nebulizer treatment. And the caregiver gave her like 2 or 3 treatments the day before. And she called me, she said, Mama not doing too good, and her breathing is a little off, and she gave her the treatments and stuff, right? So I just, like I said, her room was like literally right next to mine. And so I kept an eye on her, and then I noticed her breathing wasn't right. Okay, so the next day, her breathing just got really messed up. So if you ever worked in the nursing field, in the medical field, and you've worked as a nurse, a medical assistant, a CNA, there are certain signs of death approaching. Okay. And when I was working in a nursing home, one of the patients, so like if I was off on the weekend, I would make sure that my residents, had their hair combed, they were shaved, their nails was clipped, they had clean clothes, everything. And this one particular resident, I was, we'd talk, and I said, okay, I'll see you when I come back on Monday. I'm off for the weekend. She said, oh, honey, I'm not going to be here when you come back Monday. I'm like, why did you say that? Yes, you are. And sure enough, when I came back Monday, she had passed away that weekend. And then another patient on the same floor was passing away. So when I was working nurse home, I had, depending on how long you work there, you have one floor that you work on all the time. And I worked on a skilled floor, and the skilled floor is like some of everything: G2 feedings, bed sores, everything. So another resident, when I got off the elevator, the whole floor stunk. If you ever smelled death, that's something that you will never forget. You will never forget the smell of death. So when I got off the elevator, I smelled it, and I was like, talk to the other CNA and the nurse, and I'm like, who's dying? And they told me who it was. So I went to his room to check on him. He was still around, but the whole room stench. It was the worst. And then I had another one, that another sign is that you just stop eating. He did that. Now his thing was, give him his food and his coffee, and he don't care about anything else. So we would go to the cafe, to the day room, and he wouldn't want to eat. He didn't want no coffee, and this happened for like a week straight, and then he ended up passing away. So FYI, if you're ever in a predicament and you know that someone is about to pass away, those are some of the signs. Now, my mother had what you call a death rattle. And a death rattle is like you're congested and you're trying to breathe. So So your mouth is in an O shape, and it's like you're congested. I mean, it's literally like you congested, and you have like mucus running in your throat. That's what it sounds like. It's called a death rattle. And so when I heard that, I called the ambulance. My husband at the time was in the basement, and I'm upstairs. And I called him down. I called him on my phone, and I told him, I say, listen out for the ambulance. I just called him for Mama. And he was like, what's wrong? And I said, Mama is dying. And he hung up and he ran up the stairs. He was like, why would you say that? And I started crying. And I said, Mommy is dying. He was like, no, don't say that, don't say that. I said, no, literally right now at this moment, she is dying. When she leaves this house, she's not coming back. So ambulance came. Now I had DNR papers on my mom for about 4 years. So I gave them a copy of the DNR papers. And she got to the hospital in time. They put her on BiPAP. Is it a BiPAP? I think it's called a BiPAP machine. Because at first I told them don't intubate her, but then I told them my brother lives 2 hours away. At least let him come and see his mother before she passed. So I called my brother. He didn't answer. He finally called back, and I told him what was going on. He made it up the next day. Now, they end up putting her on hospice, and I had an appointment with the hospice coordinator that Thursday. So they took off that BiPAP machine that Thursday morning, because I would go there every morning and check on them before I go to work. I work down the street from the hospital. And we're not really down the street, but it was real close. And so they took off the BiPAP machine that morning. And that afternoon, it wasn't even an afternoon, but later on that day, probably like 9 or 10 o'clock, the hospice coordinator called me. We set up an appointment at 1 o'clock. And so I told my daughter, she didn't have her car at the time, so I had my car, and I say, take me over to the hospital. I'm gonna be there for the rest of the day. My supervisor told me just go ahead and leave. And we stopped at White Castle, and the White Castle line, they was just so slow. In that drive-thru, they was so slow. So by the time we got to the hospital, I'm walking in the door, and I'm at the desk getting my pass, and my phone rang. And so I'm answering, but I'm not getting them. Keep getting cut off, right? And so they called back. And again, I'm still trying to, I'm like, hello, but they keep getting cut off, right? So I get the pass, go to my mother's room, and I see the nurse. And I saw the doctor. The doctor was on the phone, but she had her back turned. So I walked to her room. The nurse ran. She like literally ran up to me. She said, Miss, the doctor's trying to call you. She's over there now trying to call you. So I looked over. She said, well, here she is right here. And she came up to me. She said, I've been trying to call her. I see we kept, the call kept dropping. And I said, what's going on? She said she passed. And I was standing in her doorway, and I looked at her, and I say, when? She said, just now. That was me trying to call you to tell you. So in the midst of me trying to get some damn food from White Castle, if White Castle would not have took so long, I would have made it to the hospital right when she passed, or just before she passed. She never made it to hospice or any of that. Now, when she went to the hospital that Sunday, was a Sunday, yeah, she wasn't supposed to make it through that night. She ended up passing 4 days later. So, being a caregiver is hard because I literally stopped my life. I stopped going out. I stopped hanging out. If I needed a break, my husband was here, or I will see if my daughter was doing anything to ask, see if she can come by and look after for a couple of hours if I just want to just get away, But being a caregiver is super hard, especially if you don't have a person that's helping you. If you are doing it by yourself, get somebody to help you because you need a break. Okay, you need a break. My bathroom upstairs, it had a glass in the door, right? And I was in there one day trying to bathe my mother, and she just literally fought me. She just fought me so hard. Honey, she slapped me and called me all kind of names, and I was so angry. I just had to take a break. The bathroom door was closed, and I hit the glass and I broke it. I was so mad, and I just went downstairs, calmed down. And at that time, my mother, she was still walking. She would walk in her room, go and do something like ain't nothing happened. And then we'll just try it again. Y'all, I'm telling you, when you're dealing with someone that has Alzheimer's and dementia, make sure that you get some help. If you have to put them in a facility, go see them every day. Let the people know that, hey, I'm here. You will not mess over my parent, my spouse, my sibling, my kid. You will not do that. And if you see something that is not right, make sure that you say something. Okay? Don't let it slide. Do not let it slide, because if you let it slide, they'll continue to do it. So if you get there and their hair not combed, you pitch a bitch right then. Why isn't this person's hair combed? Whoever you have in there, whatever loved one that you have in there, why my uncle hair not combed? Why he got a full nappy beard, or why he not shaved? Why is his clothes dirty? You bitch, because if you don't, they will do anything to them. Okay, we had some people that they family bought them clothes. Them clothes be on another resident. Make sure that you say something. Do not let nobody mistreat your loved one in these facilities. This is why I said I would never put my mother in a facility. Because after that one incident with that resident that a lady slapped, and I called Office of Inspector General on her, I said, no, that's not happening. No. So make sure, if you have to put them in a facility, make sure that you research this facility. Make sure that there is no open cases. Make sure you go to that facility and see how clean it is. And now the thing is, the bottom floor where the offices and stuff, of course that's clean. Go up to the resident floor. See how clean they are. See how that room clean. See how they're dressed before you put your loved one in a facility. Okay? So guys, make sure that your family is safe in those places if you cannot take care of them at home. Okay? So another thing, so my husband is now sickly. Okay, now he's not as bad as my mother. He has a heart condition which made him disabled. Now it depends on how well he's doing. He would need assistance. So he has congestive heart failure. And with congestive heart failure, if you have too much fluid around your heart, you swell up. He swelled up so much one day. I mean, his whole body, his upper body, and all in between his ankles, feet. He couldn't even get shoes on. He couldn't get clothes on. That's how swole he was. So he had ended up in the hospital for about 3 weeks. I think it's about 3 weeks to a month, for them to get that fluid off and for him to be stable enough to come home. So now he's on a bunch of medications, he's on a bunch of diuretics, and then he also has other illnesses too. So when he is not doing well, then I have to take care of him. So again, I am a caregiver for a loved one, and if after my mother, I said that I didn't want to do it again, but in reality, like I said, I know how those facilities work, and as long as I'm able to do it, then I'll do it. So like I said, yeah, my husband has illnesses now, and so I'm kind of looking after him. And it's a good thing now because I actually, I work from home now, and I just go in the office once a week, so I'm able to do whatever he needs to be done while I'm here. He's stable right now. He's okay right now. But yeah, so like I said, if you have someone that is ill in your family and you just absolutely cannot take care of them yourself, before you put them in a facility, make sure that you check it out from top to bottom. Okay, like I said, when you enter the building, of course it's going to be nice and clean and immaculate because that's where the offices are, the administration and everything. But go ask them, to take a tour of the place, to go up on the actual floors where the residents live and see how clean it is, what it smells like. That's a big thing because you have a lot of them that are incontinent of bowel and bladder, and so you want to see how the residents are being treated, what they look like, how they're groomed, what the facility smells like, what their rooms look like. You want to see all of those things. Okay, so I did have an article that I wanted to read, but this episode is over an hour already, so I'm not going to read it. I don't want to keep you guys any further. So I'm sorry. So guys, be sure to like, comment, and subscribe. Share the content. Like I said before, it may help somebody. You never know. And again, after tonight's episode, we will return in January, and I believe it's January 6th. I'm not sure. It may be the 6th or it may be the following week, because I know the holidays are coming up and you guys are getting ready to hang out and kick it with the family and party and all that good stuff. So I'm sorry, but I'm slamming the door. But yeah, so you guys have a nice holiday. Be safe out there. If you drink responsibly. And you guys take care. See you next year. Bye-bye. So guys, yeah, make sure that your family is safe in those places if you cannot take care of them at home. Okay, so another thing, so my husband is now sickly. Okay, now he's not as bad as my mother. He has a heart condition which made him disabled. Now it depends on how well he's doing. He will need assistance. So he has congestive heart failure. And with congestive heart failure, if you have too much fluid around your heart, you swell up. He swelled up so much one day. I mean, his whole body, his upper body, and all in between his ankles, feet, he couldn't even get shoes on, he couldn't get clothes on. That's how swole he was. So he had ended up in the hospital for about 3 weeks. I think it's about 3 weeks to a month, for them to get that fluid off and for him to be stable enough to come home. So now he's on a bunch of medications, he's on a bunch of diuretics, and then he also has other illnesses too. So when he is not doing well, then I have to take care of him. So again, I am a caregiver for a loved one. And if after my mother, I said that I didn't want to do it again, but in reality, like I said, I know how those facilities work, and as long as I'm able to do it, then I'll do it. So like I said, my husband has illnesses now, and so I'm kind of looking after him. And it's a good thing now, because I actually, I work from home now, and I just go in the office once a week, so I'm able to do whatever he needs to be done while I'm here. He's stable right now. He's okay right now. But yeah. So like I said, if you have someone that is ill in your family and you just absolutely cannot take care of them yourself, before you put them in a facility, make sure that you check it out from top to bottom. Okay, like I said, when you enter the building, of course it's going to be nice and clean and immaculate, because that's where the offices are, administration and everything. But go ask them, to take a tour of the place, to go up on the actual floors where the residents live and see how clean it is, what it smells like. That's a big thing, because you have a lot of them that are incontinent of bowel and bladder, and so you want to see how the residents are being treated, what they look like, how they're groomed, what the facility smells like, what their rooms look like. You want to see all of those things. Okay, so I did have an article that I wanted to read, but this episode is over an hour already, so I'm not going to read it. I don't want to keep you guys any further. So I'm sorry. So guys, be sure to like, comment, and subscribe. Share the content. Like I said before, it may help somebody. You never know. And again, after tonight's episode, we will return in January, and I believe it's January 6th. I'm not sure. It may be the 6th, or maybe the following week, because I know the holidays are coming up, and you guys are getting ready to hang out and kick it with the family and party and all that good stuff. So I'm sorry, but I'm slamming the door. But yeah, so you guys have a nice holiday. Be safe out there. If you drink responsibly. And you guys take care. See you next year. Bye bye.